Stuart, I have a question. Bob Sink.
Yes, Bob.
How is courage essential to dealing with obstacles and challenges and fear?
Well, look, the answer to that is it's really very clear. It takes guts to struggle against oneself. It takes courage to fight the battle to overcome the things that are keeping you from having a spiritual life. It takes an incredible kind of integrity of purpose, commitment, focus, and maybe above all, it takes courage to do all these things. You're up against, probably the most difficult odds there are to be up against, which is overcoming all of the encumbrances, blocks, tensions inside yourself. And most people just give up. You understand? They fall away, they give up. And I don't mean just in what I do. I'm not talking about students that disappear. I'm talking about in life. People just give up. And they suddenly, whatever is the easiest way they can function every day is, what they do. And yet, if you want a spiritual life, the work, Rudy always said, work brings more work, and it really does. Because the work to do it and the guts to do it is something absolutely extraordinary. And it just takes, I have so much respect for anybody who's willing to make that kind of effort. We're dealing in intangibles, we're dealing in things that are incomprehensible in the ordinary logic of things. We're dealing in transcendental energy. We're dealing in things that emanate from the source of all creativity. At the same time, we're dealing with life and all the manifestations of life, having to deal with work and money and relationships and family and this and that and the other, and to be able to deal with all those things and at the same time have the guts to say, I am going to get to a place in myself where I can embrace everything in this world as my teacher. Now, this takes guts. It's not something you do because you just get up in the morning. You do it, and the courage comes from the need to do it. Somebody needs to be with God. They need to have a spirit. They will do what it takes. If somebody doesn't need that, they will find excuse after excuse not to do it. And there's nothing I can do about that, I mean, I have to work in tremendous depth with people that have that kind of need to be with God, to have a spiritual life. And that doesn't mean we stop living. It doesn't mean we, go off and live in a forest somewhere or in a cave, but it means whatever our life is, we have to do it with consciousness. We have to do it as service to God. A service to a higher force of energy in the universe. And we have to have the guts to ask, to truly ask for all the help that the universe can provide for us to grow. So what I'm saying is, look, it's not a terrible thing. I mean, it's just doing what has to be done. And doing it with joy, with love, with openness, with surrender, experiencing the incredible adventure of life, and let it really be your teacher. This takes guts. Much easier to just sit in a chair and let life just go by, and to open and embrace everything that life has to teach us, and to be willing to get past ourselves, our security zone, because, look, as we all know, there is no security zone. We don't know what's going to happen 20 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now. Nobody does. So that security is just an illusion. That's safety. What's not an illusion is being able to live in the moment, to be able to live our lives and have the strength of purpose to truly serve higher energy in our daily lives. No, I don't mean we have to become sannyasins and priests and monks and this and that. I mean, whatever our life is, everything around us is sacred. And our job is to get strong enough to recognize this. It takes courage. And even more than courage, it takes a need that is beyond ordinary comprehension. Many people, show that need when they want to make money, they want a relationship, they'll do whatever they have to do because they need, or they think they need to do that. If the same need went into having a spiritual life, my God, this would be a very different world. I mean, it took an incredible amount of courage for me when I was younger, just to sit with Rudy 4 or 5 times a week. I'd go into his gallery and I knew I was going to go in there and come out a piece of burnt toast. I knew it. But I said, no, Stuart, the energy that he can provide, the teachings that he can provide, I said, it's beyond any kind of, you can't put a value on it. And it gave me the guts to keep going back again and again and again, and to spend time learning from him. He had so much to teach me. And yet every time I would sit around Rudy, I'm telling you, I walked out of there, I couldn't talk. I felt like I was a piece of burnt toast. His energy was so powerful. But 2 hours later, all of that teaching absorbed itself inside me. And it made it possible for me to live life the way I've lived it. Does anyone have a question? Anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Stu.
You're welcome, Bob. Situation, Bob, it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. And I have such a deep respect for what you're doing, working against, really impossible odds to find your way to a spiritual. I mean, it's extraordinary what you're doing, Bob. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question, Stuart. Do you have any news about Eva? How she is?
How evil is?
How Eva is? Is she? Yeah.
No, I don't really want to talk about it, okay? I do know, but I don't want to talk about it. I have to have a conversation with them tomorrow. But maybe what I'll do is, instead of me having to explain everything, I can give you, or anyone who wants, her phone number, and best would be through text messages, not calling her. But let me talk with her first.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question? mean, it takes a certain degree of courage to come here and listen to my stuff 4 days a week. Really, you know, whatever I say tests everyone who's sitting here, you know, because its only purpose is to get people to grow, to get people to change, to open, to go deeper, and that takes courage to hear that at least 4 times a week. Same courage I used to have just to go sit with Rudy, you know. I can't go near him. People would say he's too strong for me, you know. I said, good. It just gives more room for me, you know. Does anyone else have a question? Like, you know, and also I'm not complaining, but I'll tell you, you know, sometimes I am so tired by the end of the day, you know, and then I have to sit down and do this, and it takes guts. I could just tell everybody, well, no class tonight, you know, I'm tired. But this is my responsibility. And if you understand profoundly your responsibilities, you do them. You don't become a flake. You do what you are required to do to have a spiritual life. And, you know, there are times that I have to crawl in here and sit down and do this. And the only thing that gets me to do it is the need in myself to grow, and knowing that every one of you affords me the opportunity to grow. Your presence is a gift to me, and thank God for it, you know. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, if there are no more questions, there'll be meditation on Sunday. Well, most of you don't live in New York, but I am having in-person classes here on Saturday. I don't know, it's going to be like 9 degrees tomorrow, so I'm not sure. They're talking about people getting frostbite walking in the streets, you know. I don't know if it's just the media being dramatic, but it sounds pretty serious. And then next Tuesday is going to be like 55, you know. So even the weather is just crazy. You know, everything's crazy. Does anyone else have a question? Also, you know, my next thing on Tantra 16, will be published on my website tomorrow. If you have time, read it. I think it's really interesting. And I enjoy writing those things, and I enjoy sharing that part of my life with all of you, not only in class, but in what I write and things I contribute to the world. So God bless you all, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you,
Perrin.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Stuart.